All right, welcome to The Explainer. Let's just jump right in, because today we're tackling a classic software nightmare. You're stuck with a rigid, slow-moving core system that you have absolutely no control over. We're going to unpack a really powerful architectural pattern to help you not just deal with this, but actually win. So, does this feel familiar? You've got this amazing new feature you need to build, but you're just completely blocked by some third-party vendor system. Maybe it's a core banking platform or some ancient order management system that just can't keep up. It's a trap so many of us fall into. In a perfect world, we're living on the left side of this slide. With our own microservices, we have total control. We own the logic, we own the data, the APIs, we can move as fast as we want to. But when we're relying on a vendor's core system, we're stuck over on the right. We're limited by their features, their release schedule, and whatever infrastructure they're running on. We're basically just playing in their sandbox, by their rules.
So let's get really specific about these challenges. Why is working with these black box systems so frustrating? Well, it really boils down to a few key pain points that just kill our ability to innovate.
It all starts on a technical level, right? Their APIs don't give you what you need, the data formats are restrictive, and the whole thing probably doesn't scale well. But those technical headaches create huge process problems. You've got this mismatched pace of change. You need to ship in weeks, they work in quarters or even years. And that leads to painfully slow development cycles, all while you're sitting on top of their risky legacy infrastructure.
And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? This is the real-world cost. You ask for one tiny change, maybe a new field in an event, and the answer you get back is a 6-month timeline buried in their bureaucracy, and your project just grinds to a halt.
Let's look at a classic example of this. I call it the data gap problem. So imagine your vendor system sends out a simple order placement event. Sounds useful, right? Well, the devil, as they say, is in the details, or in this case, the lack of them.
This table just lays the problem out perfectly. On the left, that's what the event from the core system gives you. Just a few IDs, barely anything. But on the right, that's the rich data your service actually needs to do something useful, like send a confirmation email. To close that gap, you're forced to make a bunch of slow, expensive API calls back to the core system, creating this massive performance bottleneck.
Okay, so that's the problem. It's a huge pain, but it is not hopeless. Now we get to the good part, the solution. We're going to look at 2 really powerful ways to break free and build a flexible layer of your own around that rigid core.
So the first approach is pretty direct. If you can convince the vendor to let you, you create a read-only replica of their database. The original system is still the source of truth. It still handles all the rights, but now you have a copy of the data that you control. You can build your own powerful, flexible API layer right on top of it and completely bypass the vendor's terrible APIs.
But what if you need something more dynamic? Something in real time? Well, that brings us to approach number 2, using Change Data Capture, or CDC. And honestly, this is a total game changer for getting data out of legacy systems.
So how does this magic work? It's actually pretty simple when you break it down. Think of it like a live transcript of the database. Step 1, every single time a record gets created, updated, or deleted in the vendor's database, it logs that change. Step 2, a special tool, something like Debezium, captures those change events and streams them onto a message queue like Kafka. And then step 3, your brand new, modern application is just listening to that queue, and it can react to those changes instantly, publishing its own rich, complete events for everyone else to use.
Now, I know what you're probably thinking. That sounds amazing. But my vendor would never, ever give me direct access to their database. And you're right, that's super common, especially in places like finance or banking where security is tight. But don't worry, there's a great workaround for this too.
The playbook here is a 2-phase process. First, you do a one-time, full data migration from their system into your own brand new database. And here's the best part. During that migration, you can transform the data into whatever shape you want. You can go from some old Oracle schema to a flexible MongoDB document. Then, for step 3, you just turn on CDC at the source to stream all the new changes as they happen. This keeps your copy perfectly in sync. You get your own data in your own format.
So when we use these techniques, whether it's the replica database or the full migration with CDC, what we're really doing is we're shifting all the important, valuable domain logic out of that rigid core system and into a new flexible application layer that we control. And this whole strategy has a name. We call this hollowing the core. You are literally, strategically carving out the valuable logic and data, and you're leaving that original legacy system as kind of an empty shell.
It's only responsible for its most basic functions. All your new, innovative work gets built on the outside, where you have the freedom to move fast.
Now, this might be sounding a little bit like another pattern you've heard of, but there is a really critical difference we have to talk about before we wrap this up.
Okay, so let's be crystal clear on this. Hollowing the core is the pattern you use when you do not have control over the original system's source code. You're building around a black box. This is completely different from breaking a monolith. That's a pattern for when you do have control and you're actively going inside that system to refactor it and pull it apart. The key difference here is all about ownership and control.
So there you have it, one brand new, powerful pattern for your architectural toolkit. So I'll just leave you with this one question to think about. As you look at your own systems, your own frustrations, what rigid, slow-moving core in your architecture is just waiting to be hollowed out? Thanks for joining this explainer.